Michael Smerconish is here to discuss. He's CNN political commentator, host of CNN Smerconish, and of course, the star of Smerconish Fridays here on CNN this morning. Michael, good morning. This has been quite a week.
Kasie, first of all, congratulations to you on your upcoming move. I hope I'm allowed to say that. It's much deserved.
Thank you.
And looking forward to seeing you in the afternoon. Yeah, that's really wonderful, wonderful news. So it's been a fire hose of information thus far. And yes, the day is young. Who knows what today brings? But what occurs to me is very few surprises. In other words, the things that are getting so much attention for those who paid attention, obviously you and the panel did, to the campaign. He told us about DEI. He told us about birthright citizenship. He told us his definition of two genders. For me, the big surprise, the item on the agenda that causes the most risk of any blowback from his base, the J6ers. I thought that the breadth of the clemency that was granted to the J6ers in the end, if you believe the news accounts, he just said, F it, I'm going to take care of them all, instead of going through a case-by-case basis. And I think it carries real political risk, as borne out by the fact that the largest police union in the country, which supported him in the past 3 elections, drew a line in the sand on that. And you look at those personalities who were just released from prison this week, they're not going quietly into the night. They want to be players. I think it's going to come back to bite them. I think there'll be recidivism from some of the 1,500 or 1,600 who've been released. And what worries me most about that move is the message that it sends not only to those individuals, but the people who support them, that Trump has their back. So for me, on this Friday morning, that's the headline of the week.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, I have to say, if you watched the press conference that was given by members of the Capitol Police Force, and we played quite a bit of it yesterday, where, we heard from Officer Daniel Hodges, who talked about, and he's in some of that best known footage from the day where he's jammed in the door, literally screaming for help. And he talked about how the rioters tried to gouge out his eyes. And at the end of his comments, he simply said, I don't understand. And I think, for me, I've covered the Republican Party for a long time, and, the sort of trajectory it has taken in the age of Trump. But even with Trump and the difference that, I started covering Mitt Romney's campaign, right? I'm not sure there could be two different people, let alone, Republican politicians. But I never imagined, even as that transition was happening, that we would see a Republican Party that was pardoning people who were specifically violent against police officers. Is that the piece of it that you think is ultimately going to be a problem here? There's Officer Hodges, by the way.
Well, that's what I find to be the biggest shock, because if I go back to the days when I cut my teeth politically in the Reagan 80s as a Republican, one who served, albeit in a lower level position, in the Bush 41 administration, but that's my pedigree. Like, this is totally at odds with the Republican Party of my younger days. It was always the Republicans. I can think of so many different RNCs, so many different Republican National Conventions where law enforcement was a critical part of it, and they would always tout the fact that, they were the party that had the back of the men, largely men then, in blue. And this is totally at odds. But I don't know that President Trump thought it through. When you look at those two personalities, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, the guys who were released this week, I hate to even give them more heft by naming them, and the things that they said to the media upon their release, somehow I would think that Trump wants to get the message to them like, hey, guys, I cut you some slack, but please, that's it. Go quietly into the night. They show no interest in doing so. That's going to come back in the future.
I mean, I remember at the time the sort of stand back and stand by line in the midst of Trump fighting to not have to leave the White House after the election. Is it a even more aggressive version of that message to those? And you're right to point them out as well, the leaders of these groups. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he meant what he said all along. He's been consistent, if nothing else. Look, I'm trying to give him, to be fair and to give him the benefit of the doubt. I made sure that I started my comments today by saying, if you paid attention, he's doing that which he said he would do. The shocker for me is the approach to the J6ers. I mean, I'm not the only one shocked. J.D. Vance, Vice President Vance, is apparently among those shocked because of the comments that he made just a week ago. But it's like everybody has lost their voice on it. I draw the line at just giving a blank slate to those that I watched, that we all watched, being violent with cops and breaching the Capitol. My own standard is, if you were violent on that day, if you breached the perimeter of the building itself, then we're giving you no quarter. If there were others who were overcharged, who have paid their debt to society and 3.5 years behind bars, okay, let's have that conversation. Maybe 3.5 years was enough. So that's what I think.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough, and I found it jarring. Also, my colleague Donnie O'Sullivan did an interview with the woman who she had a pink hat on, and she used an axe to break a window, and then he interviewed her outside the D.C. jail because, of course, she's now been released. So, Michael Smerconish, I'm always grateful to have you. If it's Friday, it's a Smerconish Friday. So see you soon, and do all of you at home remember to tune into Smerconish. It's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. It's right here on CNN.